Welcome to Leading Beyond the Lab. Today I'm joined by Brian Shields, CEO and co-founder of Neurent Medical, pretty fresh off the back of an oversubscribed Series C raising €62.5 million and rapid US expansion. At the heart of this story is Neurent, a minimally invasive procedure changing the way that chronic rhinitis is being treated, a space that has traditionally been long underserved. So this is a company at a really exciting but very real inflection point, where clinical validation, commercial traction, and investor conviction are really aligning very nicely. Neurent Medical came out of the Stanford Biodesign-inspired BioInnovate program, with a needs-first approach starting with the problem. And Brian came out of management consulting, focused on incentives and execution, which I think really proves why the company has scaled so successfully so quickly. So today, we're going to explore both, building something that really changes patients' outcomes and what it takes to scale them. So Brian, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thanks for joining me here.
Very welcome.
It's nice to be in Galway, Ireland for the first time.
Not raining.
So I'd like to get started, Brian, with you've recently concluded a successful oversubscribed Series C fund. Right now, things seem to be aligning and coming together. In your words, what do you think is fundamentally different to, say, for example, 12 or 18 months ago?
There's no single thing that's different. It's been the accumulation of just hitting milestones over the last number of years. Now is the right time, we felt, to scale this business. So now is the right time to go look for that capital. So we weren't looking before now. Now that we were, thankfully it showed up.
But you've clearly got a great story around Neurent and everything that goes alongside with it. What do you think, with your management consulting background perhaps and your time in industry, why do you think investors are looking at you as such an exciting proposition?
So a number of reasons. There's some market change happening at the moment. So to give you a bit of background, we're working on a product for treating rhinitis, which is a chronic illness of the nose for patients. So that's a long journey to bring a new therapy to market. And usually the gating item for scale is insurance coverage in the US. So that's starting to show up now. So we have what's called a procedure code. There's a journey to get to that. And then post that, you immediately need to get coverage. Right? So somebody's covering this code. That's a big catalyst for growth capital, for them to take it seriously. Second one is product maturity. We're on our third generation product right now. That is our scalable product. We've in-housed our own manufacturing as part of the design process. So we really are set up for success with scaling.
So you own the IP is internal, the manufacturing is internal.
Correct.
Great. So it's very protected.
Yes.
From market forces and things like that.
Exactly.
And you've got your code.
Our code, yep.
Yeah. So the landscape, the world's your oyster.
The world's our oyster is still a long journey. There's still a lot of blocking and tackling, as some people will put it, just to get that coverage where it needs to be and access. So more and more patients can access this type of therapy.
And looking at Neurent specifically, it's targeting chronic rhinitis, which is something a space that's been left fairly untouched. Why now? Talk me through kind of the background of that and why now to treat that condition?
No, it's not now. It's 12 years ago this started. The overnight success.
Under the iceberg.
So 12 years ago, we've spoken in the past about BioInnovate, the origins of this, which is an affiliate of BioDesign and Stanford, which a number of people might know better. So just to give a bit of background, 4 people come together from a multidisciplinary background. We won't have met each other before. We won't know what specialty we'll be assigned to. So you come together for a 10-month program to understand what the next unmet need or needs are that are worth solving for in this particular specialty. So in our case, it was ENT. Spent about 3 months with ENT surgeons, just shadowing everything they did from ward rounds, grand rounds, clinic, into surgery then, and spending a lot of time in the OR. Did that first in Ireland, got an experience there, and then to the US.
Quite literally, following the surgeons around and making a list of every single problem that comes up, and then going through like a due diligence process to work out.
Exactly.
Nice. It's amazing how simple but effective that is.
Some of those problems are iris system problems, for example.
Yeah.
They're still a problem, but it's not something you're going to solve for.
Or build a business around.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got to look at disease. What's the disease as opposed to what's the problem maybe that's throughput in an OR. That's a local problem. Rhinitis showed up. I remember I was with a surgeon quite early in the process who was speaking to a lady she's in her mid-40s, and she suffered from rhinitis. And when he explained to her how limited her options were going forward, and clearly if she was at the ENT, she would have considered herself quite severe, and the limited options caused her to break down. She was upset. This was the best she could be.
What are the options? What are the options?
At that time, there are some surgical options for obstruction, none for which is your inability to breathe, but for rhinorrhea or runny nose, there weren't options. So it's drugs, all right, and she's there because the drugs weren't working. So, but if we rewind back the clock to 1958, believe it or not, there was a solution for this. And this came out during the process. So it was a surgeon in Dr. Golding Wood in the UK, believe it or not, had found a link between a deep set cranial nerve called the Vidian nerve and this inflammatory process in the nose. So when he went in and sectioned that nerve, and granted 1958 didn't have the same sort of ability to access those places with less risk than you do now. But the upside for that patient was very obvious. So what we looked at was, can we take that Vidian nerve? Can we find an interruption point in the nose rather than in the base of the skull, and ablate it, or
So what were they doing in 1950 to get that nerve? I mean, physically,
not going through the nose. Right, so they're going through the temple, going through the hard palate in the mouth, different access points in through the cheek. But that probably speaks more to the need that was there. If patients are willing to do that, undergo that. So as we got into sort of more modern surgical techniques, you still have side effects from that surgery. You were most likely going to get dry eye. Pretty much all cases got dry eye because the downstream impact of impacting that nerve was impacting the lacrimal nerve, which stimulated the lacrimal gland, which creates tears, which keeps your eyes moist.
That's interesting,
So you were swapping out the drugs or sprays for your nose that weren't working for eye drops because you were going to have dry eye. So again, spoke to desperation. People just wanted a solution.
Yeah.
So we take that whole theory and stand on the shoulders of that success and say, can we just bring it downstream a bit more, where we don't have that the unintended consequences like a dry eye, then patients should surely look to this as a really good solution.
Yeah, so it's almost completely untreated at the moment when you think about it.
Like that, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I'm intrigued by, when you came to that decision to treat this condition, was there like a short list of like 2 or 3, or did you just know straight away?
5 is actually what the short list was.
5, okay.
Yeah, believe it or not. So, and there's products out since then to address some of the others. We just, for various reasons, didn't pick them up and go with them.
So are you creating a brand new category, or are you competing in one?
We're competing on now. There was nobody there at the time. So we were the first to do this that we knew of. There was a company there slightly before us called Aeronex out of the Bay Area. So they've since been acquired by Stryker. They have a cryotherapy solution for our RF solution.
Okay.
So we were developing this white space at the same time.
So when you go around looking at commercializing the US, what do you think, or what's going to be your approach to take advantage of the opportunity there and do it in the right way?
So a number of different, so direct sales force is key. This is a type of product that needs to be managed very carefully, type of opportunity that needs to be managed very carefully.
Because it's in office.
It's not just because it's in office. It's a new therapy, so you can't just put this in a distributor's bag. That's not the type of sales force you need to create. So we need to create our own sales force. We need to create a very experienced sales force. So people that have experience, as you said, in the office as opposed to just in the OR. That can be key as well, to understand where this patient, with the surgeon, where this patient is best treated. When would you go to the OR? When would you stay in the office?
Okay. And so what do you think are the biggest challenges with the device when it comes to the patient outcome?
Single biggest challenge is coverage. It's not the device or the outcome. It's the access to the patient, or patient's access to the therapy. If it's not covered, there's no ENT. ENT are a great group of people. I love working with them, but there's very few of them are willing to do a procedure where they lose money. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. So this won't be offered to patients who haven't got the appropriate cover. So the single biggest barrier between those patients and an outcome is coverage.
But you're almost there, right?
No, we're only the starting point of the coverage journey.
Yeah. And what do you think would be the turnaround time?
It depends. It varies quite dramatically from specialty to specialty, from product to product. But we've seen a lot of good success over the last 6 months with some large payers. So Cigna, for example, removed this from what they call their E&I policy, which is experimental investigational, which means we're not going to pay for it, not going to cover it. So we've got removed from that last summer. United Healthcare with their Medicare Advantage plan followed in the autumn. So we are seeing traction now as these big payers start to revise access to this procedure.
Have you got any great stories of where a specific patient has had this treatment and it's really been a bit of an eye-opener to how impactful this can be for these people?
We do actually. We keep a number of those stories. It's motivational, right? For the team. Those late nights, weekends, you want some motivation from somewhere. And most of these stories are nothing to do with the immediate impact of a blocked nose or runny nose. So there was one girl. She was 18 years of age, college athlete. She had been following our product in clinical trials. So we're not approved for anybody under 18. And she was up in the Detroit area. So again, her disease was rhinitis, but the impact to her quality of life was that there was so much mucus being produced in her nose, she was vomiting every day, which is a horrible impact on your life, and an athlete as well. Yeah. So she turned 18, enrolled in a study of ours, and within a very short space of time, her life had changed because it wasn't about the blocked runny nose. It was about, I'm not vomiting anymore.
Yeah.
So you get the same type of stories with sleep, for example. So the impact of this condition on your sleep is quite dramatic.
From things like snoring.
Snoring, yeah, or just disturbances in sleep.
Marriages.
Absolutely. Good and bad.
I think my wife will sign me up straight away.
So again, we've had stories where the patient might just have had to get up from bed multiple times during the night to clear their throat, because there's so much mucus going down the back of their nose. That stops then. And they're getting full night's sleep where they hadn't in years.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference. And again, so is the solution we're solving a blocked nose, runny nose? Or is there a broader quality of life impact? Yeah. And for most patients, there is.
And you think focus, energy levels, kind of mood, all of these things are linked, aren't they, to a good night's sleep? And more and more so now that everyone's wearing these wearable devices to track everything.
Yep.
Well, it does make me super conscious though. I don't want to get rid of it. Hyperreactive to my sleep condition.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more about what the future has in store with Neurent Medical.
So the US is our primary market right now. Yeah. And we look at this, we've got to crack it over the next couple of years as we scale our revenues. So that's got to be consistent execution like we've done in the past. Second angle then is we have studies underway at the moment to look to extend out the patients that we access for this therapy. So instead of treating their rhinitis, we're treating other things that this, what's called the posterior nasal nerve, PNN ablation, is impacting. So we look to increase our market, our patient access through that as well. And then we'll start looking OUS. And what does that look like?
So is that the primary use of the recent fund, is to commercialise?
Yes.
I did notice though, I saw you cutting the ribbon on a nice new facility in Ireland.
Yes.
Creating 125 jobs?
To create, across US and Ireland, 125 jobs. So that's our manufacturing plant. Yeah. So, but that was there. That wasn't part of this funding. This funding was to scale out the back of it. So that was to support the growth we're going through now.
But is there something in there which is helping to contribute to the Irish ecosystem and landscape around Medtech? I know you've got quite a rich history in Medtech in Ireland.
Yeah, I think it's really important. But there's a lot of companies coming through now, and BioInnovate has been an amazing part of that journey, in the journey of the ecosystem. So traditionally, it would have been manufacturing excellence for a lot of the big companies, Medtronic, Boston Scientific. You just have to drive around here to see them. Yeah. And they have thousands of jobs here. And slowly, I think they started winning some of the R&D efforts and then the higher order R&D efforts. And then as you see that develop in the ecosystem, you get the startup community starting to develop as well. I think BioInnovate was probably an injection in pace in that development. Limited probably by capital.
Mm-hmm.
So now lots of smart people, good ecosystem, need capital. So that's the last piece that is being added quite well over the last number of years by the Irish state incentivizing that type of investment.
Yeah, I saw you had Joey from Claret Capital, who's a recent guest on the podcast. I saw he's one of your investors in the recent round in the syndicate.
Claret Capital have been with us for a while. Started with a venture debt facility a couple of years ago with those guys.
He's a great guy, isn't he?
Joey's a great guy. First met Joey back in 2014, believe it or not, in BioInnovate.
Yeah.
So it is quite a tight ecosystem that exists here.
And so in terms of the funding climate, there has been green sprouts, I'd find, in the last, particularly in Medtech, when close to commercialization. I imagine it's still tough, obviously.
Yeah.
The cheap interest rates post-COVID period. But what's your view on that and where it's going?
So I wouldn't be as positive as you about it. There are some green shoots. However, I think everything has sort of shifted right in the risk profile of what investors are willing to do.
That's very true.
So yes, when you're commercial and looking to scale this, so we had thankfully an oversubscribed round, multiple term sheets, but it takes a lot to get to where we are. And if we're not putting capital to use in the earlier stages, you just won't get the companies progress to where we are now.
Yeah.
So I think everything has sort of shifted up right. Your former Series A folks are now playing in Series B, where you can get through to commercialization with that capital, for example. Even your angel investors want to see first in human data these days.
Yeah.
Right. So everything has just shifted up a little bit on that risk scale.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because at the moment we can go through the companies like yourselves that were founded, was it 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Looking at the R&D early stage side of things then. But at some point, we're hitting an inflection point where there's none left. So,
right. That's a problem.
Yeah. And do you think the market will then go towards family offices and things like that?
I think we have to. So what has plugged a gap a little bit for us here in Ireland is access to a good grant system, right? Whether it's through the Irish system or the European system. And that has attempted to fill some of that gap in the very early stage in bringing something through to advanced prototype, for example. But there's still a gap between there and there'll always be a gap, I think, between there and institutional capital. And what is the point those institutions are now writing that first check? That's the bit that is tightened up.
Is your background as a management consultant, naturally one would think that gives you an edge, I suppose, when managing financial people from the investment or managing up to financial people in the investment community and applying those concepts to real life.
Stakeholder management, problem solving, I think these are all key elements of management consulting. I actually believe that pretty much all of us in the company need to act in that type of way, right? So whether it is problem solving and from R&D up, whether it's stakeholder management of some of our investors, board, etc., customers, or even the problem solving that I'm seeing us undertake now in the field. So our salespeople have to act as that true business partner of the ENT surgeon, helping them understand how they would identify patients with their scheduler, help them understand how they would scale this type of procedure in their own facility. So that's something that's management consulting skills. So take off your sales hat, put on your business development or management consulting hat.
Yeah.
Very quickly, everyone gets to the right place.
Actually, I've seen that across various sales functions. Is good sales now is far more rounded, consultancy led and value add based than ever before. I mean, in my world, in the search world, it's definitely that way as well. The kind of direct sales tactic is people will, like Joey's a good example. He gets to know companies 2 or 3 years beforehand, right? You said you met him at the BioInnovate Summit.
Yep.
How long ago was that?
2014. Yeah, that's a while ago.
Yeah. And when did he invest?
2023.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
But that's the value of an ecosystem.
Yeah.
You got to be meeting the multiple touch points for all these people. MVM, who led our Series C, I first met in February of 2020 at an LSI event. And they tracked us and followed us and we executed and etc. And then when the time was right for us to raise a Series C, they were there. So this is every conversation is a long game, I think, in this world.
Yeah. And what do you think most companies get wrong when fundraising?
Short term, looking at the short term, I think, or certainly believe now, and I suspected it earlier, that you're always raising the next round when you're raising the round you're doing now.
Yeah.
And if you've cut your outcomes to assume you're gone, be it liquidity event, M&A, IPO, whatever it happens to be, before that's needed, so you're cutting corners and taking shortcuts, it never pays off.
Yeah.
Particularly now where that length of time to liquidity event has increased. In Medtech, it has increased. So I think one thing that we've done really well is to develop the company in a way that provides optionality for our shareholders. So
can you tell me more about that?
Right. So I'm sure you ask our early shareholders if they would like an exit now. Sure. And our current shareholders would like an exit. Sure. But we're not wedded to having to do that. If we develop the business where we can keep growing and raise more capital to keep growing well, that's an option. So when you have one option, you might end up in a bad place if there's not a good outcome. We have optionality. We'll continue to build optionality in the company.
So that means that people can effectively sell their stock early. What do you mean in terms?
No, I mean create options for us. So Series C versus an M&A, IPO versus M&A, right? Create these options for the company as it grows.
But sometimes they do come in favour in and out, don't they? Different types.
They do, but I think you've got to be working all options. You don't shut down anything early. So in raising our Series A, for a very simple example, raising our Series A was led by a group in Dublin called Fountain Healthcare. Fountain's brand is extremely strong. They pick very good early stage investments. So that validates a Series B early conversation. I won't say the diligence, but an early stage conversation. You have Fountain on your board. Yeah. It's validating. Our B was with LSP, now EQT. They led it. Validating for everybody. That's a great fund in Europe to have on your cap table.
Almost, yeah.
So, but that you leverage that in the next round. So you're always raising your next round.
Yeah.
Now by who you bring onto the cap table.
The perpetual role of a CEO.
And now CEO. we have MVM and Sofinova. Yeah. They're two they're fantastic when it comes to their brand value, the check sizes they can write, their fund stability, how long they're in the business. They have a great brand out there. So bringing them onto our cap table increases our brand, increases our value, I guess, beyond the money.
Yeah. Who do you think on that journey? It's been I imagine it feels like a fun but long journey that you've been on to get to where you are now, and it's super exciting what the future has in store. There must be some people on that journey that you think, wow, they've really helped us along the way, either as a conduit of advice or someone to bounce off, all the way through to investors and people on your board.
Yeah, so we brought in a first team of 5 people. 4 of them are still with us 7 years later.
Oh, that's amazing.
So they're like the likes of that are early stage people, because the journey, while you can look back and say it's one journey, it's looking forward. It's probably a sequence of shorter journeys, and everybody is willing to, okay, we got to pivot, go again. We got to move. We got to change direction now. We've reached the end of that journey in development, and we got to get into clinical now. So it's a slightly different journey. So bottom up, that's really important. Top down as well. Our chairman of our board, who joined us before we had any investors as on the board. Now he's validating because he ran a company called Zomed, which ultimately became Medtronic's ENT business, and scaled that. And that's crossed $1 billion mark in revenue from an ENT company, which is brilliant. So he joined us in 2017.
Who's that?
Mark Fletcher. So he has huge commercial experience in ENT. He's seen a lot of companies fail. He's on the board of a lot of companies. He's been on the board of ENT companies. So he's seen the success failure. So having him as not just chairman of the board, but a mentor has been fantastic.
Yeah, I imagine. And what was if there was one thing that he's really taught you that you had no access to that type of thing before, what would that be?
I think resilience is an important one in this game. Right? You're going to get beaten down, stand back up again. How many times can you do that?
Yeah. The art of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, well.
And who else from what about the role of investor? Because I always think investors are interesting because they're supposed to give you guidance, capital, contacts. Some people say they just give you one of those, but what's been your experience?
No, I think that's probably too flippant. I would caveat it with, don't look to the investment community for that. If you need a skill set, you got to go get it.
Yeah.
Don't assume it's going to come from your investor base. I think our investors have been incredibly patient. They've been incredibly supportive. I think we have a small subset of those investors are on our board. I think we have an extraordinarily high performing board. Not that it's all, backslapping and great times. There's challenge all of the time, challenge to get better. So I think the investors that are on our board have done an incredible job of continuing to support the company through good and bad.
Mm-hmm. And does anyone stand out?
So our three investor directors, Justin Lynch, Drew Burden, and Jerry Maguire.
And were they in with the previous rounds as well?
They led our A and B.
Oh, wow. And I think that also shows a good sign, I think, doesn't it, when they stick with you?
Exactly.
Because I've noticed that's become less and less of a thing, whereas that was always kind of...
It depends on the funds.
Yeah.
Right? Each fund will have a different investment hypothesis. But I think regardless of how they invest, I think the investor group that anybody would look to draw into a syndicate contributes to the business, but is bought into to the success of that business, by showing up. So I think credit to the folks that have been on our board, they've shown up.
And as you look to deploy these ideas, these concepts, and commercialize in the US, what will the hiring? What will you be looking to hire, and what do you do in terms of your values piece to make sure that they align with a certain type of person or personality?
So market access is our big one now. We're driving into that. I guess maturity that we've got to have that as a leader in the team. I think there's a few different values that I'm very proud of in the Neurent team. First one will be our ability to listen, because you hear feedback all of the time, different types of feedback, positive, negative. I mentioned at the outset we're on a third generation device. That third generation device has come through multiple sessions with many surgeons. We'd like to say our Gen 3 is made with surgeons for surgeons, right? So there's probably 80 different individual voices that were assessed for feedback. So I do think we do a really nice job of that. I think the best proof of the value system that we have is the people that work with us. People that work for us in employment, people that work with us in advisory roles. They can pick and choose who they want to work with.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky they've chosen to work with us. So some incredible names out there from the American Academy of Otolaryngology, the American Rhinitis Society, leaders in their field who give up time in their practice to work with us. So our medical director, Dr Mark Dubin, he's out of the East Coast. He was so motivated to do something for these patients. He worked with us in the really early stages with product development, placing the product in our noses as founders.
Yeah.
He was incredibly willing to put this time in, and he's still with us all these years later. That was probably 2015. I think I met Dr. Dubin first. Has
anyone from the board or the investors that you've got on board used the product and gone and signed up in the US?
No, we have an investor's partner, I believe was too. I haven't followed up if they actually did. We've staff that have had it done.
Yeah, makes sense.
Treated.
I think I say that because I think that's a real testament to the fact that it works, right?
We have customers or ENT surgeons that have treated their husbands and wives with this. So it has stood the test of that pressure.
When we first started talking, actually, my mum is always moaning about my dad snoring. So I actually told her about it, and she said, right, Martin, we're signing you up. We're flying into the US next month.
Well, you tell us when and we'll make sure there's a surgeon available.
So you're someone with a rich leadership experience in management consulting background. What have you kind of had to bring across? What have you enjoyed bringing across, and what have you almost unlearned on purpose? Because it's a different environment, isn't it? Management consultancy.
It is. I think there's a lot of things you can bring, a lot of common bits you can bring across, right? So you're always listening, you're always learning, trying to stay. I used to laugh in management consulting. We just try and stay one page ahead in the book of the customer, and they think you're the expert. You're one page ahead. You're learning fast. There's that type of skill set or attitude that I think is important. That goes everywhere. The bit you've got to unlearn from management consulting is usually in short bursts.
Yeah.
The type of eat, shoots and leaves projects. Yeah. And you got to live with the outcomes of those projects here. So I think that's the big change, that the horizon which we look at is far, far longer than what you would in management consulting. However, we got to still look at some things in the same way. It's problem solving, stakeholder management, etc.
Yeah, it's a really good foundational skill set.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And why do you think, as someone that's in the medtech world now, why do you think medtech is having a bit of a resurgence? When you compare it to, say, for example, therapeutics.
Well, so medtech for me, very simply, is you'll get access to patients quicker, right? It's usually lower risk products, usually, not all the time. But why medtech instead of tech? Because there's a lot of money in tech. That's something I scratch my head with a lot. So I've come from a tech background, and I'm humbled all the time looking at our team, going, why did you pick medtech that early in your career? It's to help people.
Yeah,
it's that simple. It's to help people. Yeah, you get to have fun, good engineering challenges, but you get to see patient outcomes. Back to that 18-year-old. It's back to those real tangible patient outcomes. And I think huge credit to those that have that as the center point of their career, that there's something more than a salary at the end of the month or a complex problem I got to solve. It's also that patient outcome.
Yeah, and you must, when you were following ENT surgeons around for 3 months, if you think all the way back to then to now, let's say 2 years on, it's commercialized, it's in hospitals, etc. What an amazing, fulfilling feeling.
It is.
And alongside that, you're giving people jobs, great jobs.
Yep.
Bringing together a team of great people. That's incredible, right? That's what
it is. And I think you can't get caught up with that too much. I don't think anybody fully has mapped out the journey, or certainly I didn't, I speak for myself, map out the journey from that, early needs finding to where we are today. No, I think you need great measures of naivety, probably, as much as anything else, but then the resilience to move and shift quite quickly, read the markets, read where you need to be. But that journey from first idea to commercial outcomes is a very, very windy road.
So in addition to that, which is obviously super fulfilling and nice to hear, what else do you want your impact to be?
That's a good question. I think we've got to, in general, leave the place better than we found it. So if we develop good people, I do think we're good at developing good people. We brought people from, engineering positions up through leadership. I think that's important that we continue to do that. We got to leave the ecosystem in a better place than we found it. So to manufacturing, to things like that, you can give people the belief you can scale from a needs finding to commercial scale company. We've got to leave ENT in a better place than we found it. So chasing down that commercial coverage, for example, engaging in the way we do with the academy and the society, that's really important, because that forges alliances between those societies and industry that might have been there before. And now it's easier to follow that path. So I think these legacies you can leave behind, I think, are pretty powerful.
Yeah, and you've done all of this with 4 children, Brian. Now, this wasn't something I was going to ask, but I have to ask, how have you managed that? As a person with 3 kids, I can't imagine one more.
Yeah, but like everyone has the person standing behind them all the time. So a route at home, that's a really important part of it.
Yeah.
How do we manage to do this? How am I getting on a flight 14, 15 times a year to the States? Somebody has to keep
human wife.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And the kids are good as well.
Yeah.
I might give out about them a lot.
Yeah.
Good kids.
So I've got time for one more question.
Okay.
What does success look like to you?
Survival.
Let's say 3 to 5 years.
So I might joke, survival is an important part of the ecosystem today, right? Because there is a natural selection as you go forward. Those that get funded, those that don't. So success, much like what sort of legacy do you want to leave? It's back to those elements. Yes, we want more and more patients treated, but we also want to grow people. We want to be a really responsible employer. We're growing employment in the west of Ireland. We're growing specialist skill sets here. We're growing a superb sales team in the States. Most of them have done something like this before. Some of them haven't. So I think those legacies, I think that for me is success. It's not a revenue number. It's not an exit number. It's leave the place better than the way you found it.
Legacy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.